Alrighty, I wanted to make a quick video about transfer trucking. So I unhooked and took this, made a dump over there because the roads were too tight. That's why transfers are built when you're driving on mountain roads and places where roads are too tight for a truck or transfer or popper transfer. So this is dumped and empty. I'm gonna transfer this into this. And first off, I'm gonna go ahead, back up over the tongue, and I'm gonna latch on to these rails. One important thing here, everything has to be perfectly flat. Luckily we have this nice field, no elevation change. Farmer was cool with me parking here. Otherwise the road would have been good, but it needs to be flat. Blacktop is preferred. But now the challenge is gonna be backing up here. So these rails right here line with the rails that sit in the bed of the dump truck. Make sure the PTO is on. Make sure the tailgate is unlocked. We're gonna go ahead and lift the tailgate here. See if it's doing it. Sometimes I need to pop it up a few times. Here we are, it's lifting. Half-ass. There we go. So, lifting the bed or the tailgate. And then here's the lines or the rails that the transfer is gonna rail up on. Okay, so we're looking for these rails to be nice and lined up with that so it doesn't derail. Going off the rails of a crazy train. Hydraulics hooked up. We're gonna go ahead, set the brakes so this whole thing doesn't squeeze back. We're gonna slide this in. So let's see if we could go ahead and set the brakes. So I'm pressing that in. And I'm gonna go ahead and set the security hooks down. So up to down. And the hooks should come down. Some of them I have to jiggle out of the way a little bit. So now we should be free. I should be ready to wheel this into the transfer. Okay, all the hooks are down. There's no more attachment from this to the transfer trailer or the walking beam. So we're gonna go ahead, use this lever here and roll it into here. So go backwards to go forwards. Make sure all that area is clear in there. It's going a little slower than expected, but that's okay. Make sure those are all in line. All right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go a little slower towards the end here. Boom. Awesome. Now what we're gonna go ahead and do is make sure that these are set in position. Looks like it's already latched. Making sure that this is going around here. So now we're ready to go ahead, undo the hydraulics, scoot forward. It's always good to do a quick inventory before you connect or ever disconnect to a trailer. So making sure that there's no connections anywhere. These are unhitched. And I almost forgot about this guy here. So we need to go ahead, pull this out forward so it is no longer attached to this little beam connection that connects this, which is like a fourth point of connection for this transfer as it sits back here. So we'll go ahead, undo that. We'll be able to scooch forward. Alrighty, so it is free with the transfer now. Do a thorough look to make sure nothing's connected. We're good. Connected the air hose, so we're able to lift the tailgate and should be ready to dump. Super pretty job site here. This guy's farming some sheep. Not an easy animal to have, but sometimes just work with what you got. A lot of sheep in the valley here. Coming through here with the transfer, with the trailer or pop just wouldn't have worked out very well, so that's why we're straight trucking through this section here. We're going into that area. Alrighty, we had a successful dump here. Now we're ready to bring this transfer trailer onto the actual trailer, and everything is aligned. We're ready to go ahead and go. Make sure that the tailgate is latched because you won't be able to do that once it's out there. Disconnect all the hoses. I'm gonna have to reconnect the PTO, reconnect that across so we can go ahead and change. Another thing, we got to make sure that the transfer is disconnected from the main dumper completely. So we're gonna have to make sure that these pins are undone here. So it usually takes a couple of tries, but we'll see if I push that in. It disengages. All right, I'm gonna have to mess with it for a while before we figure it out. But essentially, you won't be able to move this thing until it's totally disengaged. But that's connected, we're ready to go when this decides to unlatch. Alrighty, we are unlatched, ready to haul it back. So after I connect the PTO. Alrighty, we did all the due diligence here. I think we're ready to go ahead and go back to the transfer. So let's see. Make sure the wheels get over that successfully. Comes the other set of wheels here. Make sure this gets over the gap. Go a little bit slower towards the end so it doesn't just jam up against the end. Boom. There we go. Latch everything down. So I'm gonna go ahead and go up with my hooks. And that sets all the hooks, so this thing's not gonna fly off the transfer. Go ahead, disconnect all this, pull forward, do that again, we'll be good to go. Now we're ready to pull forward and latch onto the panel hook down here, and I like to mark it with something so that I know where the back of my tires need to be, so it'll be easy hook up and go forward. We can go ahead and raise the tongue. Looks about right. And maybe another video for this, but we're gonna go ahead and back the truck up into here. And secure. Hook up the lines. We'll be good to rock and roll. Before I go, I want to triple check all my connections, make sure everything is latched and in place. We got the safety chains, the panel hook looks good, air lines are clear. Want to give it some slack here, and gonna go ahead and we're gonna have to need some electricity at some point. But one thing that I want to mention here is to try to bleed all the air off of the tongue. So I'm gonna go ahead and bleed it off. There you go. Perfect. And then I'm gonna go ahead and push the trailer brake in or out, so we could go ahead and start airing up the trailer, close the hatch, close the tailgate. We're out of here. So that's how you transfer with a dump truck. This guy came to say hi. Right as I'm about to leave. All right, I did a triple check. All is good. We're ready to rock.